Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats and silence your cell phones. The ceremony will begin momentarily. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2024 University of Rhode Island Army ROTC commissioning ceremony. I am Captain Robertson, Assistant Professor of Military Science for the Kramer Sabres Battalion. Please rise for the playing of the national anthem. Please be seated. I would like to recognize our distinguished guests with us here today. University of Rhode Island President Mark B. Parlange, Dean Jen Riley of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Rhode Island, Vice President of Student Affairs Leticia Gambrill-Boone at Salve Regina University, General David G. Perkins, Colonel Retired John Petrella, Colonel Retired Bill Babcock, Colonel Retired Tom Heaney, Lieutenant Colonel Retired Tori Peterson, and Commander Retired Bob Flynn, Director of Military and Veteran Education at URI. At this time, I would now like to welcome and invite the University of Rhode Island President, Dr. Mark B. Parlange, to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to begin with the University of Rhode Island land acknowledgement. The University of Rhode Island occupies the traditional stomping ground of the Narragansett Nation and the Niantic people, and we honor and respect the enduring and continuing relationship between the indigenous people and this land by teaching and learning more about their history and present-day communities, and by becoming stewards of the land we too inhabit. I really want to, first of all, begin by warmly welcoming everyone on this beautiful day. I am so glad to be here with you as we honor and celebrate the commissioning of the outstanding cadets of the University of Rhode Island, Roger Williams University, and Salve Regina University classes of 2024. I also really want to acknowledge and appreciate that the Army ROTC team for inviting me and for all that you do, I have to say, for serving our students. And I'm also grateful to today's guest speaker, General David Perkins, for joining us. General Perkins served for 4 years as TRIDAC Commander, which oversees 37 schools and centers in 27 different locations. He previously served as the Commanding General of the 4th Infantry Division Mechanized and as the Brigade Commander for the 2nd Brigade, 3rd Infantry Division Mechanized during the invasion of Iraq, commanding the unit's Thunder Run into Baghdad and subsequent stability operations in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. He earned the Silver Star, the nation's 3rd highest award for valor. General Perkins has also held a number of key staff assignments, including Deputy Chief of Staff for Strategic Effects for Multinational Forces Iraq, Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations for United States Army Europe, and Special Assistant to the Speaker of the House at the U.S. Capitol. I'm really honored to have General Perkins here today as part of today's ceremony. This weekend, we celebrated 8 special commencement ceremonies for the university, and students became graduates and part of the thriving alumni community of their universities, University of Rhode Island, again, Salve and Roger Williams. And today we commission them from cadets to second lieutenants. Your commissioning today is really recognition of your remarkable achievements, your leadership, and it's really a major significant milestone on your journey in the military and in your communities. You're being commissioned into the United States Army, the Reserves, and the National Guard, and your service will be further testament to your courage and your love for country. I know that you will continue to uphold the values instilled in you through the ROTC program, including the principles of leadership, discipline, integrity, teamwork, adaptability, and finally, service. Through ROTC, you've learned about the importance of serving our country, and I know that when you leave here, you will continue to contribute positively to the communities and to the world. I know your futures are very bright, and I can't wait to see where your journeys take you. And so I strongly, and I'm sure you're going to continue to keep running every morning and doing push-ups every morning. So on behalf of the entire URI community, I extend my deepest gratitude for your service, my warmest congratulations for your commissioning today, and I know that you will continue to inspire others, and I just want you to know how proud of you we are. So warmest congratulations. Thank you.
The Reserve Officer Training Corps, or ROTC, is a program that prepares young adults to become officers in the U.S. military. Cadets strive to not only uphold, but push past rigorous standards of discipline and duty. Prior to commissioning as officers, it's necessary to remember the Cadet Creed. Cadet Alex Owens, please come forward and state the Cadet Creed.
The Cadet Creed. I am an Army cadet. Soon I will take an oath to become an Army officer committed to defending the values which make this nation great. Honor is my touchstone. I understand mission first and people always. I am the past, the spirit of those warriors who made the final sacrifice. I am the present, the scholar and apprentice soldier enhancing my skills in the science of warfare and the art of leadership. But above all, I am the future warrior leader of the United States Army. May God give me the compassion and judgment to lead and the gallantry in battle to win. I will do my duty.
Thank you, Cadet Owens. At this time, I would like to introduce the Professor of Military Science for the Kramer Sabres Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Tad Granai.
President Parlage, Mrs. Parlage, hello. Hi. General Perkins, Dean Riley, Colonels retired Petrella, Heaney and Babcock, ROTC alumni, I've seen a whole bunch here today, distinguished guests, cadets, very soon to be second lieutenants, cadre members, friends, and family of those who are about to commission. Welcome from the entire Sabre Battalion, which includes the University of Rhode Island, Salve Regina University, and Roger Williams University, as we celebrate the tremendous achievements of these fine young cadets as they take their final and critical step on the road to commissioning as a United States Army officer. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Tad Granai. I'm the Professor of Military Science at the University of Rhode Island. On behalf of Colonel Alan Kehoe, Command Sergeant Major Jacoby Gadsden, and the entire U.S. Army Cadet Command team, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you all and to tell you how much of an honor it has been to serve as these cadets' Professor of Military Science for the past 4 years. It is a rare occurrence when someone serving in my role gets to watch cadets develop throughout their entire 4 years in ROTC, and frankly, I will cherish the memories for as long as I live. Cadets, after 4 years, You may be surprised. I have nothing new to say. My advice remains the same no matter what. Work hard. Don't judge a book by its cover. Be a team player and remain humble. After all that, enjoy yourself. These are the days you will remember for the rest of your life. Whether you know it or not, you are actually in the early stages of your good old days. Embrace it. There is not a senior officer around who isn't envious of the journey you have ahead of you. And finally, before I introduce today's guest speaker, soon to be second lieutenants, always remember to let your natural humility remind you of the rare honor and privilege you are bestowed as being a U.S. Army officer. There is none greater. Congratulations. We honor to have General Retired David Perkins as this year's commissioning speaker. General Perkins was born in Keene, New Hampshire. He received a Bachelor of Science degree from West Point, United States Military Academy in 1980 and was commissioned as a second lieutenant of armor. He subsequently received a master's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Michigan. General Perkins has served in numerous command leadership positions throughout his Army career, to include command of the 2nd Brigade, 3rd Infantry Division during the initial invasion of Iraq, 4th Infantry Division Commander, Commander of Combined Arms Center at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and as the President said, of TRADOC, Training and Doctrine Command. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General David Perkins.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction, and it's a huge honor to be here and continue to be part of the legacy that not only is part of the University of Rhode Island, but is part of the United States Army. To our distinguished guests, President Parlange, thanks for not only just being here, but for the great support that you give ROTC and the leadership here at the university, Dean, Vice President, other staff, faculty, leaders that support ROTC. To the battalion and ROTC cadre and leadership, thanks for investing into the future of the Army and the nation, which are sitting right over there and about to be second lieutenants. And to the family and friends that are out there. And so to the soon-to-be second lieutenants, this has sort of been your week, right? You had graduation, now you're having commissioning, you're up on the stage, all that. So all attention's on you, but I know you'll be the first to admit that you did not get here on your own, that people up here on the stage, part of the ROTC battalion, part of the staff and faculty university, friends, family members, everybody that's been supportive of you throughout your entire life, all own a piece of your success. So what I'm going to have you do is I want you, the soon-to-be the second lieutenants, to stand up and give them a round of applause. Go ahead. All right, thanks. And go ahead and never forget throughout your Army career and your life, wherever it may take you, that you never get anywhere by yourself. And there's always innumerable people, some that you don't even know, that have been behind the scenes that have sort of got you to where you are and propped you up. And so as we are about to commission you into second lieutenants, what I'd like to do is contextualize what your life is about to be like and contextualize the United States Army for you that you are joining. In my last job in the Army as a TRADOC commander, we do a number of things. We run Cadet Command. We run all the schools, Command General Staff College, various things like that. And I was at a conference in Western Africa, Chief of Defense conference with most of the chiefs of defense in the continent there, and was giving a talk, and they introduced me as a TRADOC commander. And I would get a lot of strange looks because none of those countries had a TRADOC. And so I remember afterwards, one of the chiefs of defense of one of the nations that actually had a fairly good army came up to me and says, well, what does TRADOC do? I mean, we don't have those. I said, well, we do a lot of things. We run Cadet Command, we run all the schools, we teach people to fly Apaches, drive trucks, Command General Staff College, we write doctrine, and et cetera like that. And we run recruiting command. He goes, what's recruiting command? Well, because in his country, service in the Army is compulsory. Everybody has to serve in the military. And I said, well, recruiting command, I said, that's where we go out and we recruit people to be in the Army. He goes, oh, I thought everybody in the United States had to serve in the Army. I said, no, as a matter of fact, if you run the numbers, I'll just round up here, 350 million people in our country, maybe on a good day, total force, guard, reserve, active duty, we have 1 million in the Army. I said, that's less than 0.3%. I said, statistically, nobody's in the Army in our country. Less than 0.3%. He goes, really? He said, so where do you get these people? Like, how does this happen? I said, well, we go out like to the University of Rhode Island and Salve Regina and hometowns all around the country, and we have to inspire people to voluntarily come into the Army and serve many times during a time of war. He says, well, why do they do that? He says, because if they don't, they won't go to jail. I go, no, as a matter of fact, if they've been in jail, they're probably not going to get in the Army. And he says, so there's no stick to not doing that. I said, absolutely not. I said, literally, all we depend upon is their desire to serve the nation. I mean, that's what we're selling. We're selling service to nation and inspiring them to, as now our new, which was an old recruiting thing, be all you can be. And he kind of paused for a minute. He goes, because I had no idea that that's how you ran your Army. And he says, and right now, we're not even, active duty is less than 500,000, which out of a country of 350 million is pretty small. And he paused for a moment. He goes, that's just incredible. He says, because you're a very large country. You're a very wealthy country, and you have global responsibilities all around the world. You really provide freedom directly and indirectly to most democracies in the world, and you do it with so few people, relatively speaking. He says, I thought like you had like 10 million people in the Army, and everybody had to serve in the Army and all that. I said, no, that's not how we do it. I said, what we do is we make sure the people that we do get in the Army have great leaders, like the non-commissioned officers that we see here, and soon-to-be officers, and then we put a lot in their rucksack. We give them a lot of responsibility very early on, and they always rise to the occasion. And so we like our system. We're going to keep it. It works for us. And he was just so amazed by that whole process and how much depended upon such a small percentage of our population. I said, it's been that way since 1775. We've had a few large mobilizations during the World Wars, but after that, it's a relatively few number of people that put on the uniform of our country and do so for no other reason that they have a sense of service and duty to nation. So thank you all for being part of that 0.3% that keep not only the United States free, but the rest of the world. And the other thing that you're about to find out is that not only are there not many of you, and when you take a look at the requirements that our nation has and what we're going to ask of you, but we're going to give you a lot of responsibility right away. And the reward that we're giving you for being less than 0.3% and signing up for all of this, we're not going to pay you well. You are going to be put in some pretty austere conditions. But we are going to give you the largest reward that any nation on earth ever gives anybody. We're going to give you our sons and daughters. And when a nation gives really the future of their country, their sons and daughters, to somebody to do very difficult things with and to solve difficult problems, there are high expectations with that. And I say that as somebody who has 2 children, a son and a daughter, who are both soldiers. And so I found that when I'm talking to cadets, especially as they're about to become lieutenants, they start thinking about all this and like, oh, this is really going to happen. I mean, we've talked about it in military science class and we talked to the NCOs, but it looks like this is actually going to happen. I'm going to be a lieutenant, and I'll get a platoon or a section or whatever it is. And then people start getting a little anxiety. Well, do I know everything I need to know? And what about this? And what about that? In fact, I was talking to the Master Sergeant right here about it. So let me sort of put that in perspective. You are well prepared to be an officer in the United States Army. You are well prepared. But you do not know everything you need to know. Those are two different genre of experiences you have to go through. You are well prepared. You have all the foundational requirements for leadership, values, the Army values, understanding of accomplishing the mission, understanding of taking care of your soldiers, understanding contributing to their community, all of those things. Those are foundational aspects that ROTC, your time here at the university, growing up, has given you. And now we're going to start filling in the blanks. So it's like building a house. We've laid the foundation and we've given you the framework. And now we're going to start putting in the drywall, adding the appliances, et cetera, like that. But you're going to have that foundation and framework. And I will tell you, whether you serve a short time in the Army or you become chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, you will always, in the really, really tough times of your life, you will revert back to the foundation that's been laid here. You will revert back to the framework that's been laid here. And you're going to revert back to the process that you've learned here and will continue on in the Army, and that is, and your PMS talked about it, being part of a team. So as I say, as you go out in the Army, you are well prepared, but there's a lot you don't know. But our solution for that is called the Non-Commissioned Officer Corps. So we are going to give you a right-hand sergeant, probably a platoon sergeant, and then a bunch of other sergeants. And their job is not to criticize you and point out what you don't know. Their job is to make you better. Their job is to start filling in the blanks and continuing to prepare you to take other jobs. And in the Army, that's how we grade those sergeants. Not how much they know, but how well do they develop you, their officer. And that never changes. And you're going to find that relationship is very unique and becomes a lifetime bond, both personally and professionally. And a lot of people will ask me, well, hey, sir, when you're going through becoming an officer and your self-development, how do you know when you're successful? You know, is it when you max the PT tasks, or you are, high platoon on this competition, that competition? And I said, in my experience, the best metric of success, I don't care what rank you are in the Army, is when your non-commissioned officer, when your sergeant claims you. When your sergeant claims you is their officer, that's when you're successful. There are other metrics, but I will tell you none other matter more than that, because they have invested in you, they want you to succeed, and they want to be proud of you. So you are sort of their life's work. I remember when I was a second lieutenant during the Cold War, during the Dark Ages in Germany, and we were getting ready to go on a big training exercise. We're going to have gunnery. And I remember overhearing, he didn't know I was listening, my platoon sergeant talking to another platoon sergeant. I was second platoon, he was talking to first platoon. And he says, my lieutenant, meaning me, he says, my lieutenant is going to get a higher score than you on gunnery, than your lieutenant. It's the first time I heard it. Sergeant First Class Driscoll said, my lieutenant, Second Lieutenant Perkins. And when he said, my lieutenant, I said, okay, I guess I really am a platoon leader now, because I am his lieutenant. Well, just as I said, foundational and framework items don't change. Doesn't matter what rank you are and how long you're in the Army. So many years go by, and I became a division commander. So that's a 2-star. And I was in Iraq, and I had a command sergeant major, so it's analogous to my platoon sergeant. I was a platoon leader. My command sergeant major's name was Dan Daly. You may have heard him. He became sergeant major of the Army. So Dan Daly was my sergeant major. I'm a 2-star, and so he's helping me out, et cetera, like that. Then we deploy back to the States. He gets selected to go be a 4-star sergeant major. So he becomes the TRADOC sergeant major of the TRADOC commander. I was not nearly as capable as him, so I had to become a 3-star before they let me become a 4-star. So I had to stomp off as a 3-star, so I was doing the 3-star thing. And a couple of years go by, and in the Army Times, they announced that, hey, General Perkins is going to become the TRADOC commander. So I'm going to become the commander of where he is now, the Sergeant Major. In the Army, when you become a brigadier general, we have a course for new generals. I call it the Baby General course, BG course. And they bring in senior leaders and talk to them. And there were a bunch of colonels there about to become generals. And they had served with us before, myself and Sergeant Major. And so they're talking to Sergeant Major Daly. And they're talking, hey, I heard, Perkins is going to come up, be the TRADOC commander, et cetera, like that. Daly had already been there for a while, as a 4-star Sergeant Major. And then, so one of them said, yes, Sergeant Major, I hear that Perkins is going to be your general. And without missing a beat, Sergeant Major Daly said, no. He says, I hear you're going to be his Sergeant Major. He goes, no, Perkins is going to be my general. What he meant was, I've been at this 4-star general Sergeant Major thing for a while. Perkins has not. He has no idea what he's doing. He's this brand new 4-star, you know how they are, et cetera, like that. I got a lot of work to do. But that's how he saw it. He was not my Sergeant Major, I was his general. So I use that just as an example of how that relationship, which you're about to make, whoever your first non-commissioned officer is, that is part of the plan and part of the framework of the Army that will stay on with you even after you leave. The other aspect that I was talking about is there's going to be a lot of things thrown in your rucksack, some of them planned, some of them not. But don't doubt your ability to be well prepared to deal with them. And in many ways, in your wildest dreams, you won't come up with it. And one example, because I was just with him a month ago, when I was a brigade commander, I had a platoon leader in my brigade, Lieutenant Ball. And he was in my brigade, life was good at Fort Stewart, and then 9/11 happened. In our wildest dreams, we would not have imagined 9/11. 9/11 happens, we get deployed to Kuwait, and then we get the mission to invade Baghdad. So he's a tank platoon leader. Literally months before, he was sitting on a stage like this. He was Cadet Ball. And now he's been thrust into this mission, very difficult as a platoon leader. And so he's leading his platoon of tanks, which was in the lead of this battalion, into Baghdad. His platoon sergeant, sort of his wingman, is behind him. And unfortunately, his platoon sergeant is mortally wounded in the attack. So now it's just Lieutenant Ball without a platoon sergeant. His platoon sergeant, his crew respectfully sort of deals with him on the tank. And then within that tank crew, a young sergeant who had never commanded a tank and a private who had never gunned a tank stood up and took over in their place. And so now it's Lieutenant Ball, who's never been in combat, who's never had to deal with the situation, a sergeant and a private who not only have never been in combat, have never been in the jobs they are doing. And so now the attack goes on. Because they had to realign their vehicles, what happened was Lieutenant Ball, who months before was Cadet Ball, is now the lead tank in the lead platoon of the lead company, of the lead battalion, of the lead brigade, of the lead division that is now the main effort of the United States of America. The entire military of the United States of America was lined up behind Lieutenant Ball, who months earlier was Cadet Ball. And things happened like that, but he was well prepared. There were all kinds of things he didn't know about. Things were about to happen to him. Unfortunately, he had just lost his platoon sergeant, but he was well prepared. And he had prepared well that sergeant and private to do things above and beyond what their job description was. And I was at a ceremony a month ago down at Aberdeen Proving Ground, where we just named the Army's newest tracked combat vehicle, a light tank, the Booker. His platoon sergeant was Sergeant First Class Booker. The United States Army named the latest tracked combat vehicle after his platoon sergeant. It is the newest combat vehicle. We have not brought in a new combat tracked vehicle in over 40 years. And in my lifetime, we've never named one after a non-commissioned officer. We have the Abrams tank, after General Abrams, World War II, great American. We have the Bradley fighting vehicle, named after Bradley, General Bradley, great American, et cetera, like that. This is the first time in my lifetime that we've named a combat vehicle, the first combat vehicle, tracked combat vehicle in 40 years, after a sergeant. It was named after Sergeant Ball's platoon sergeant. So that is the world that you're coming into. That is the framework that you are becoming an integral part of. And those non-commissioned officers and those privates and soldiers, they want you to do well. In fact, all they want is they want you to be a good officer. You don't have to be a perfect officer. You don't have to be the best officer. You just have to be good. You have to have good values, good morals, good leadership, good motivation. You do good things for your soldiers. One of them is training them hard. They just want you to be good. They want you to be a good citizen. We wanted you not only to be good lieutenants, we wanted you to be good students here while you were going through school. If you do a lot of good things, and if everyone in your organization is doing good things, what happens is the organization accomplishes greatness. You don't have to have individual acts of greatness. What you have to have is a composite amount of good things going on. And that's what you're in charge of as an officer, is to make sure good things are going on so that your unit becomes a great unit. Because you are only 0.3% of our nation, and we can't afford to have bad things going on. Everything has to be good, and you have to be good, because then you will make the Army great. And as I remind people, the birthday of the United States Army is 14 June 1775. The birthday of the United States is 4 July 1776. The United States Army is older than the United States of America. The organization that you're about to pin a bar on and become an officer in, that organization is older than the republic you defend. And that 0.3% not only is responsible for defending the public, but the republic was built upon the shoulders of soldiers, Valley Forge, Gettysburg, Normandy, et cetera, just all kinds of good people doing good things being led by good lieutenants. And so, in closing, I just want to say, as a citizen and as a father of a soldier, thank you for volunteering to be that 0.3%. Thank you for being part of probably one of the oldest organizations in our nation that is revered not only by our country but around the world. And all I ask you is just be really, really good. Godspeed, and thank you.
Will the cadets to be commissioned please stand? Our cadets are now ready to join the Army Officer Corps. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the reading of the commissioning order.
Attention to orders. By the order of the President of the United States, to all who shall see these officer candidates before you, having successfully fulfilled the requirements prescribed for the United States Army Reserve Officers Training Corps, are, upon execution of their oath of office, appointed commissioned officers in the United States Army, effective 20 May 2024, signed the Honorable Christine Warmoth, Secretary of the Army.
Please be seated. We will now attach the cadets' ranks to their uniforms. For friends and family are welcome to come forward and take pictures. Second Lieutenant Brian Barricachea, Branch Field Artillery into the Wyoming National Guard. His gold bar will now be pinned by his mom, Cherie Barricachea. Second Lieutenant Darby Donegan, Branch Military Intelligence into the Army Reserves with duty in Hawaii. His gold bar will now be pinned by his parents, Lisa and David Donegan. Second Lieutenant Layla Enoch, Branch Explosive Ordnance Disposal into active duty. Her gold bar will now be pinned by Truman Bleakley. Second Lieutenant Grace Fishpaw, Branch Military Police into the Massachusetts National Guard. Her gold bar will now be pinned by her parents, John and Michelle Fishpaw. Second Lieutenant Sophie Morris, Branch Ordnance into active duty. Her gold bar will now be pinned by her brother, Hospital Corpsman Second Class Remy Morris, and mom, Gwyneth Morris. Second Lieutenant Charles Pettit, Branch Military Intelligence into active duty. His gold bar will now be pinned by his grandfather, Frank Baskind. Second Lieutenant John Seiler, Branch Finance, Detailed Field Artillery into active duty. His gold bar will now be pinned by his mom and dad, Tara and George Seiler. Second Lieutenant Benjamin Seward, Branch Finance, Detailed Infantry into active duty. His gold bar will now be pinned by his sisters, Isabel and Hannah Seward. Second Lieutenant Joseph Silva, Branch Transportation into the Massachusetts National Guard. His gold bar will now be pinned by his father, Joseph D. Silva. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the oath of office. Lieutenant Colonel Granai will now administer the oath of office.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, John Donachia,
Having been appointed an officer
have been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation, purpose of evasion, and that I will and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the newest second lieutenants of the United States Army. Please give them another round of applause. Friends and family are welcome to come forward and take pictures. Please be seated. Now is the time for these new officers to conduct their first salute. By custom and tradition in the Army, the newly commissioned second lieutenant will present a silver dollar to the first NCO, who renders them a ceremonial first salute. The silver dollar commemorates the occasion and seals the critical bond of trust that exists between the NCO and officer corps. As I call your name, please come forward to center stage to receive your first salute as a newly commissioned second lieutenant. If you are rendering the first salute, please come to the stage as you hear your newly commissioned second lieutenant's name called. Second Lieutenant Barakachea will exchange his first salute with Sergeant First Class Jeff Holomuski. Second Lieutenant Donegan will exchange his first salute with Sergeant First Class Jeff Holomuski. Second Lieutenant Enoch will exchange her first salute with Staff Sergeant Retired Vance Dewey. Second Lieutenant Fishpaw will exchange her first salute with Specialist Hannah Raposa. Second Lieutenant Morris will exchange her first salute with Hospital Corpsman Second Class Remy Morris. Second Lieutenant Pettit will exchange his first salute with Sergeant First Class Jeff Holomuski. Second Lieutenant Seiler will exchange his first salute with Master Sergeant Christopher Van Maren. Second Lieutenant Seward will exchange his first salute with Sergeant First Class Jeff Holomuski. Second Lieutenant Silva will exchange his first salute with Sergeant First Class Jeff Holomuski. Second Lieutenant Enoch will now present the ROTC Program Award to General David G. Perkins to thank him for his support of the Kramer Sabres Battalion and being the guest speaker of our event. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join in the singing of the Army song. The lyrics of the song can be found on the back of your program. This concludes our ceremony. Enjoy the rest of your day, and best of luck to our newly commissioned second lieutenants. Families, at this time, if you wish to come on stage to take pictures, you are more than welcome.